it's very common for one state to discipline an appraiser who makes a mistake in an appraisal in another state if that appraiser is licensed in both states.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. Dustin Harris hanging out. Once again, we're going to talk USPAP today. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by three great companies, one of them being OREP Insurance. I was just on a call this morning with an individual who is in the process of switching over to OREP. I'll tell you about his experience in just a bit, but in the meantime, you can go to orep.org. That's OREP.org. Alamode, of course, is the software that I am use every day. It helps me to do more, and it will do the same for you. A very efficient company for your form filling. Check them out by calling them at 800-ALAMODE, or you can pick up your computer and put the URL in there of www.alamode.com. Datamaster, of course, saving appraisers on every report that they do. It's datamasterusa.com, datamasterusa.com. Well, folks, every once in a while we have an opportunity to talk with a good friend of mine, an MAI out of Florida, USPAP instructor, and the individual that calls himself the appraiser's advocate, Mr. Tim Andersen. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Dustin, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I am fabulous, my friend. We're in the midst of winter here, and it's lovely. And I don't think about your 70-degree weather in Florida at all.
Yeah, we're in the midst of winter here too, Dustin.
Well, Tim, welcome to the program. We occasionally do a program called the Dear USPAP Instructor, and this is where individuals write in about things going on, and we have one of those questions today. We're going to wait until after the sponsor break before we get to that. But before we do, I want to dive into kind of a big announcement that just occurred as of this recording, and this will be several weeks before this actually airs. But as of just a few days ago, as we're recording this, the Appraisal Foundation, the Appraisal Standard Board, the ASB, announced that the current edition of the Uniform Standard of Professional Appraisal Practice, or USPAP, will be extended by 1 year. So the 2020-2021 USPAP will now be effective until December 31st, 2022. Is this the first time that they have not updated every 2 years, Tim? Do you know?
Well, Dustin, back when you were but a wee lad, USPAP was updated every year. And it went to every 2 years, and it's been that way, I don't know, for the last 15 or 20 years.
Gotcha. Okay.
And with this announcement, this recent announcement, they are departing from tradition. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to continue to do that, but given the, how should we say, the silliness of 2020, this was not exactly unheard of. There has been no preview to it. But given basically what didn't happen in 2020, it's not surprising that the ASB took a look at this and said, well, okay, let's stop, let's catch our breath, and then let's rethink this. So yes, it is now valid through December 31st, 2022.
Okay. All right. So that being said, couple things that we need to chat through. I think it's important. Number one, we don't know the reason. They didn't give a reason. They just said it was, and we can speculate all day long as to why they did what they did. Who knows, right? But the bottom line is they have. So now the 2020 to 2021 USPAP is now valid through 2022, meaning that any report that you do, and make sure I'm understanding this correctly, Tim, any report that you do in 2022, if they make a change in 2023, we're not held to the changes that happened then. We're held to the changes that were for 3 years in a row starting in 2020, right?
Exactly.
That makes sense.
You just extend it 1 year. That's all it is.
Yeah. Okay.
And in 2023, we don't know if it's going to be 23 to 25 or 23 to 26 or 23 to 24. We don't know yet.
Well, and that was my next question. So you've already answered it. That they're not setting a precedence necessarily here that we're going to now renew every 3 years.
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, in the presentation that the ASB made, it was clear that this is but one option. They could go back to the way it originally was, which is changed all the time. And you just had to check on the website to see what the changes were. Gotcha. Or it could go much more formally as it is now, but maybe change only every 4 years. We don't know.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I've never really thought about that. They don't necessarily have to put out a physical book every 2 years. They can literally make changes as we go. And I guess we would be responsible as appraisers to be in the know and understand what's going on moving forward.
Yeah, I doubt they're going to do
Yeah.
that. Do they have that option? Yes, they do.
Okay, so this, of course, brings me to another question that I'm sure my listeners have, and that is, well, how does that affect my 7 hours of continuing ed every 2 years? With this now being a 3-year cycle, what does that mean to my education?
Well, you could hear the cheering when Dave Bunton made the announcement. Everybody saying, "Oh, good, I don't have to take continuing education till sometime in 2022." But he very quickly put the kibosh on that. Later this year, so sometime in September or October of this year, there will be another 7-hour USPAP class that is totally different from the one everybody has taken or will take. And so while USPAP is going to extend for 3 years, there will be another 7-hour USPAP class. And the reason is they're trying to reorient the USPAP class more away from, well, here's what it says in the book, to, okay, appraiser, here is how this applies to you in what you do every day. So they're trying to reorient that.
I like that. I like that. More boots on the ground. How does this actually affect what we do?
Right. We need to get away from, okay, here are the rules, obey them, to here are the rules, and here's why obeying them is to your benefit.
Well, that brings me to another question, Tim, and I'm not expecting you to speculate on state law, but maybe we can just give our best guess here. I know that some states, at least one, and maybe it's only one, but it happens to be a state that I'm licensed in, has kind of I'm going to call it a strange rule, and that is they require that my 7-hour update occur within the first 4 months, actually the first quarter, the first 3 months of the year of the changes. So, for example, if my renewal was not up for 2 years, it wouldn't matter in one of the states that I'm licensed in, because if a new USPAP was started in 2022, which is not going to be the case, we just read about that, but if there was going to be a new one in 2022, I would be required by April 1st of 2022 to take my USPAP update. I couldn't do it on April 2nd. I couldn't do it in July. I couldn't do it in August. I had to do it in the first 3 months. Do you know how this will affect a rule like that, where we don't actually have a new USPAP coming out?
Okay, Dustin, here is the definitive answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I don't have a clue.
Yeah, I kind of thought that would be the case. All right. So,
obviously, state legislatures are going to have to face this issue. And let's face it, not every legislature meets all the time. Some legislatures meet for 2 months every other year. So this is going to be a situation in which the foundation and the states are going to have to come to some kind of accord. However, it's going to be really difficult for the states to hold you to a certain standard if that certain standard, if they can't change the rules to make you reach that certain standard.
Right. No, that's a good point.
Again, I have no clue, and that is an issue that the Appraisal Foundation will have to handle in the relatively close future.
Yeah, and I'll probably reach out to my state and find out. Although for me, it's not that big of a deal because I've been on this cycle. My 2 years does expire the first quarter of next year, so I might as well take it anyway. It'll be the quote unquote same course that I took before, same rules, everything else. But at least I'll be on schedule again, and who knows, maybe I'll need to take it the next year as well. It is what it is. So Tim is on the line. Tim Andersen, of course, he is the appraiser's advocate. We're going to pause and then come back with a great question from a listener about virtual workers. I want to pause here and remind you of a great company who is looking out for you. They've got your back. Folks, you've got to have E&O anyway. You might as well have the greatest E&O out there. I was just on the line with one of my mastermind students this morning. We have a mid meeting, if you will. Between our two meetings, we have a follow-up, and we follow up on their goals and how things are going. And one of the individuals had a goal to get E&O. Believe it or not, he did not have E&O up to this point. And so he's in the process of getting E&O. And we talked about the different things. And he is now, he has shopped around. And he has said, despite your testimonials, Dustin, I have decided to go with OREP. They truly have the greatest benefits out there, the lowest cost. They truly are watching out for me, the appraiser. Folks, whether you have E&O or not, I would highly recommend that you take a look at OREP. You can find them online at orep.org. That's orep.org. We are sponsored by Datamaster. Datamaster, of course, is saving appraisers time. And when you save appraisers time, you save appraisers money, because your time is your money, folks. And we talk on this program all the time about technology and utilizing technology to your benefit. Check them out if you have not done so already. Make sure they're in your area. They're not everywhere. They do things right. They go through your state board and they do things with contracts, but make sure that they are in your area. It's datamasterusa.com. and you will be glad you did. Alamode, of course, is the software that I have been using for well over 2 decades. And of course, they've been in business for over 30 years, helping appraisers to, again, save time with technology. These are tools that are built in. Had a question this morning on one of the forums that I follow on Facebook. And the question was, why would someone use a camera to take pictures of their comps and their subject? Or excuse me, why would they use a smartphone when they could use a camera? And my answer back was, well, because you use it in combination with the Total mobile app, and it saves you all kinds of time, folks. And again, time is money. Check them out. Go to Total at online by typing in alamode.com, or you can pick up the phone and call them at 800 Alamode. And want to welcome you back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair, talking with my good friend, Mr. Tim Andersen, who happens to be the appraiser's advocate. Tim, I don't want to reveal too much here because I know everything's confidential, but speaking of being online with one of my mastermind students this morning, they have utilized your services and had nothing but high praise. They are in the midst of a state board investigation, and I asked them if they had called Tim, and they said that they had. And I just wanted to say thank you for the great help that you are giving them. They are very, very grateful. Tell us a little bit about what you do when individuals find themselves on the wrong side of the state board.
Well, Dustin, basically, I come in and I take a look at the appraisal report. I take a look at the work file. I take a look at what the state has sent in, and I audit. In effect, I audit the appraisal, and I tell the appraiser the strong points and the weak points. And if I think the appraisal, is really strong, I say so. Mm-hmm. If I think the appraisal is really weak, I tell them to set aside some money and get ready to start writing checks. I don't sugarcoat it.
No, you don't.
That's not why somebody hires me. They want to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I tell them. Now, granted, I cannot decide if they violated USPAP or not. That's up to the state board.
Sure.
But usually, and what I find, Dustin, is that most appraisers try very, very hard to comply with USPAP. But sometimes, given time restraints, given budgetary restraints, given the fact that there are areas in which USPAP is not particularly clear, that can be difficult. Yeah. So they come to me and I say, well, okay, here's a mistake. And I say that not in the sense that, oh, you messed up. I say that in the sense of, now that you know it, don't do it again, and you're not going to have to worry about it in the future.
Yeah. All right. Good, Tim. I appreciate that. How do people get hold of you if they would like to utilize that type of service?
Okay. They take two $50 bills and write your name on one of them and mine on the other.
No, they don't, Tim.
No,
that would be nice, but no.
No, they don't. No, Dustin, my email address is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com. And I usually respond within an hour.
Awesome.
And usually. And then I ask them to send the stuff in, and then I'm usually back with them within 5 days.
Awesome. I love it.
So, because everybody's working with the state, everybody's working under a time limit. So we have to meet that.
Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate it. All right. So this episode, of course, is called Dear USPAP Instructor, and we occasionally get questions. Tim, I know you get them directly. I get them directly, but we find that utilizing this forum to discuss those allows us to be able to bring the answer to more than just one individual. The next question is, let's put it this way, it's not a direct question. It was a conversation that I was involved in online with an individual who I thought was a great question. I'm going to boil it down to this, Tim. To set it up, the question came in, we were talking about virtual assistants. We were talking about the fact that COVID has really changed a lot of appraiser offices. Many of us had brick and mortars. We had individuals working for us, whether it be other appraisers, trainees, assistants, receptionists, data entry folk, what have you. But a lot of us worked tightly within the same geographic room, if you will. And many of us, of course, because of COVID, have gone home. I don't think I'll ever have a brick and mortar again, frankly, Tim. I've really liked the idea of everybody being spread out. Some of those individuals are within my hometown. Some of those individuals are within my home state. Some are outside my state, still within the United States. And yet others, I have 3 virtual assistants, one of them in India and 2 in the Philippines. And the question came, Tim, that I thought you would be a good one to answer this regarding USPAP. Are there any concerns working from home, working remotely, working outside the state that we might be doing appraisals in with regard to USPAP?
Dustin, no. USPAP does not treat how you run your business. How you run your business is up to you. So if you want to hire 6 people from where you are and have them work for you, or you want to hire 6 people in across the ocean and have them work for you. USPAP doesn't care because it does not address your business. What it cares about is appraising. Now, if these folks are answering the phones and keeping your books and entering data, doing research, USPAP doesn't care.
Okay.
Because USPAP does not treat those issues. It treats appraising. Whereas when you call me and say, Tim, go appraise this property for me. Okay. Then and I send it off to you, and for whatever reason you choose to list me as having provided significant assistance, but I'm not on the certification, then you're 100% responsible for my work.
Right.
And you've got to decide if it's acceptable. You've got to decide if it complies with USPAP. You've got to decide if you're comfortable with it.
Okay.
So you hire somebody to appraise a property in California. Okay. Fine, go ahead and do that. But as soon as all that information comes back to you and you say, yeah, this looks pretty good, you just bought it. And you're responsible to the state of California and or the state of Idaho for what goes out over your signature. And it's very common for one state to discipline an appraiser who makes a mistake in an appraisal in another state if that appraiser is licensed in both states.
Gotcha. Okay. What if they're not licensed in both states? And let me clarify my question. So you started out your answer. My understanding was, if you've got somebody doing non-significant assistance, meaning data entry, some basic research, answering phones, what have you. I mean, I don't think anybody has a question of whether there's a potential USPAP violation there. You did start to talk a little bit about significant assistance. So, when I think of significant assistance, the word that always comes to my mind is analysis or analytics. When you really start to analyze and make decisions about the market, about adjustments, about comps, about that now goes into the realm of significant assistance. Now, we're not going to talk about inspection because we're talking about people in other states. Physically they're not here. But if you've got somebody doing non-significant assistance, and let's say you cover your for lack of a better term, this is a family-friendly show, you cover your backside, and you detail out in a signed certification what that individual did, very specific, what their qualifications are, who they are, everything that USPAP requires, right? You go to the extent that you need to go to. But let's say now that for whatever reason, that report gets turned into the state and, this individual is located outside the state, but yet you still signed it. What advice would you give, I guess, Tim, for an individual working in that type of situation? Because I do know of several appraisers who are utilizing people outside their state that are not licensed in the state that they're working in, right? But they're still appraisers outside in a different state, but the licensed appraiser, hopefully you're following this, is still signing and taking responsibility for the report.
Yeah, that's okay. You hire me and I do an appraisal and then you sign the report. I don't, you sign the report. You're responsible for it, period.
Yeah.
And if you were to do that, if you were to sign that appraisal in Michigan, if you weren't properly certified in Michigan, then that is the unauthorized practice of real estate appraisal, and the state of Michigan gets rather exercised about that.
Right.
Whereas if you were properly certified in Michigan, fine. Assuming that state law allows someone who doesn't have any kind of certification in USPAP to draft a report, et cetera, assuming that's okay, then there's no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
But remember, just as soon as you put your signature on it, you bought it, and everything in it is your responsibility.
Yeah. It's interesting, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've never been in the commercial side. I've certainly mentored and coached individuals in this commercial side, but this is much more frequent, much more, this happens a lot more, I think, in a commercial side than it does in a residential side. Meaning, when I say this, I mean working with other appraisers. For example, several years ago, I was doing a partial interest. I got in a little bit over my head. I revealed to the client that I was in over my head, and asked them for permission to employ an individual that I knew was kind of the expert in, even nationwide in partial interest. And I reached out to this individual. He graciously said that he would help me, and he did. I learned a great deal. I felt like I was becoming competent as we worked through this together. He was not licensed in Idaho, but I still made mention of him. He was licensed in another state. I made mention of him by name, by his license and what state he was licensed in, what his qualifications were, and what actual help he gave me with the report. In other words, I think I covered myself, but this question wouldn't even really be a question in the commercial world. Don't they kind of work together all the time to utilize each other's services?
Well, Dustin, USPAP was written primarily for residential work. It applies to commercial work, but that's not its primary of concern. Now, when I was actively appraising, I appraised all over the state of Florida as an independent contractor for whoever hired me, and nobody had ever had any trouble with that. Of course, I'm also a state certified general appraiser. So, that was not really an issue. And in the commercial work, getting data is far less, how shall we say, localized than residential. Because let's face it, somebody who wants to invest in a warehouse in Idaho can invest in a warehouse anywhere in Idaho, or Utah, or Wyoming, or Nevada, or Arizona, or wherever.
Right.
So as a result, locational competency, I'm not trying to say it's not important, but in competency in analyzing an investment is probably a lot more important than the fact that the neighborhood. A warehouse is a warehouse. Right. And what does it rent for? What's its net operating income? What's a reasonable cap rate? That's basically what it comes down to. So as long as you're comfortable signing the appraisal, and as long as you properly disclose any significant appraisal assistance you received, then you're fine. It just, again, you're responsible for it.
Tim Andersen, the Appraiser Advocate. One more time, what's your email address, my friend?
Tim@theappraisersadvocate.com.
As always, thank you for joining, and I would highly recommend that people reach out to Tim, not just if you find that your mailbox has that lovely letter from the state, but before that letter comes, he's a great advocate for sprucing up and protecting your report before it gets sent in. And I've utilized that services on more than one occasion, and highly recommend it. Tim Andersen, thank you, my friend, and my best to you and your family.
Dustin, thank you. My best to you and all of yours. It's always good to be with you and your listeners. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
Every so often, we are able to jump on with a great friend of mine, an individual who knows his stuff. His name is Tim Andersen. He is an MAI out of. Did I do that again? I did that again, didn't I, Tim? I keep saying MAI.
It is MAI.
What is it?
It's not.
Damn it, I got it right.
MAI. You got it right, Dustin.
Okay. All right. Rewind.